I know many of you want to go watch The Chosen Season 3, but maybe you haven't watched all of Season 1 and Season 2, so I wanted to make a character guide so that you could follow along. I've already made one for Season 1, so go check that video out as well, but here's Season 2's character guide for all the people that we see in that season. Now, to be clear, I'm not introducing you to every single named character within the whole entire season, but I'm going to introduce you to all the main characters and the secondary characters that I think may be important in the future. So first off, in episode 2, we're introduced to two really important characters, two more apostles of Jesus Christ, Nathaniel and Philip. Now, Philip is a really interesting apostle because he's one of the most learned of all of them. He's been actually training with John the Baptist for several years and been on different missions, so he's the most capable out of all the apostles that we've met so far. He takes a quick liking to Matthew because he sees that the rest of the group is kind of picking on him a little bit, and he wants to lift him up, so they become quick friends. Also in this episode, we meet Nathaniel, who is an old friend of Philip, and Philip tells him, just like he does in scripture, to come and see. Nathaniel is a very bold and straightforward person. If he thinks something, he's going to say it out loud. But he's also highly intelligent. In episode 2 of season 2, he actually loses his career. He was an architect before, but then a building crashed and he was kicked out of his position. So he kind of lost everything that he thought God was giving him. And then that's when Philip comes to tell him, come and see, and he begins to follow Christ.
Do you see me?
Then in episode 4 of season 2, we're introduced to a few more really important characters. First off, we have Simon the Zealot, another apostle of Jesus Christ, who we see actually as a zealot, actually going to assassinate someone. Really interesting way to introduce him. But they've also connected a different biblical story to Simon the Zealot, and that is the man at the Pool of Bethesda. In this story, that is actually his brother who is at the pool, and Simon the Zealot can't help him. And they both recognize that the only way that Jesse, his brother, could be healed would be if the Messiah came. And that's exactly what happens. Jesus comes to the Pool of Bethesda and he heals Jesse there. And this is the catalyst that brings Simon the Zealot to come and follow Christ.
You don't need this pool. You only need me.
And then in that same episode, we meet a really important new Roman character called Atticus Aemilius. And he is part of a group that's called the Cohorte Urbanae, or the Urban Cohorts. His role in many ways is almost like a secret agent, like a CIA agent that's trying to protect the Roman Empire and make sure they're still in control. His power level in some ways is close to that of Quintus, who we met in season 1, but he's in like a different department. So they kind of do different things. He's not taking orders from Quintus, but he's not just above him either. It's an interesting dynamic that the two of them have. The last character that we're introduced to in episode 4 is Yani, who is a Pharisee along with Shmuel. He helps him kind of get his footing in Jerusalem. Yani and Shmuel, after episode 4, begin to team up and pursue this Jesus character because Yani sees him heal the paralytic at the Pool of Bethesda, and he thinks that he's a false prophet and a heretic, just like Shmuel does. So their journey throughout the season is to find more information about Jesus, who he is, where he's from, and then to get a higher power within the Sanhedrin or somewhere else to kind of take action against this false prophet. Then we don't really meet any new characters for a little while until we hit episode 7, and that's when we run into a few old characters that are now becoming main characters within the series. The first being Tamar. This is a character that we met in season 1 episode 6, and she had a quick role there, and that was all that was meant to be written in. But then Dallas decided that she should be a mainstay within the cast, and I think that's a good decision because she really helps to kind of flesh things out, and I think she's going to be a really big part of season 3 as well. We don't know a ton about Tamar yet since she just joined so late into season 2, but I'm excited to learn more about her character. All we really know is that she's from Egypt and that she wants to follow Jesus. And then another returning character from season 1 is Yusuf, another Pharisee that was friends with Shmuel, but seems to disagree with his methods now. He's a student of Nicodemus, and so obviously he's following in Nicodemus's footsteps in a lot of ways, and he is going to be a key point of season 3, I think. And then in the finale episode of season 2, we meet two new characters who are really, really important as well. First is Shamai. This is a high up Pharisee who is a really, really big deal within the Sanhedrin and the Pharisee players. The main thing that you need to know about him is that he's very strict when it comes to the law. Everything is to the letter of the law. So for example, on a bride's wedding day, if she was an ugly bride, he would not tell her that she looks beautiful because he wouldn't want to lie to her, right? But someone else would interpret the law in saying that every bride is beautiful on their wedding day. But he's very strict when it comes to these certain things. Shmuel and Yani are bringing all the information that they have about Jesus to Shamai, and he is frothing at the mouth to take down this heretic. And last but not least, of course, we're introduced to a new character in the season finale of The Chosen that is kind of held in mystery throughout the entirety of the episode. All the way through, we see this character kind of progress and even helps the disciples at one point secure a plot of land so that Jesus can do the Sermon on the Mount. And then at the very end of the episode, we are introduced to Judas, the last apostle of Jesus Christ. We don't know much about Judas at all yet, other than he's called an orphan and that he's a businessman of some sort at this point. So it should be interesting to see how he develops in season 3.
I'm Simon.
Judas.
Welcome, Judas. I'm sure you're gonna love this sermon.
As far as secondary characters go that I think are going to be important later, first we have Kophni, who is the father of Rama. Now, obviously with Thomas's relationship with Rama, he is obviously going to be a major player coming in the future, and I'm excited to see how that goes. Then we have Melech and his family. This is a character that we met in episode 1 of season 2, and he is a Samaritan who actually turns out to be the bad Samaritan from the story of the Good Samaritan. And he actually hurt the Jewish person on the road, and Jesus heals him and helps his family, and obviously they come to believe. I'm not sure if Melech will make a return to the show, but it would be interesting to see him again. Then we have Ethan, who is a friend of Tamar, the one that was paralyzed in season 1 and was healed by Jesus. He comes in and he is sent off to go do something else while Tamar goes to follow Jesus. Again, I'm not sure if we'll see him again, but I think it's interesting to keep him in mind. And then we had the businessman that was paired with Judas. Later on in behind the scenes of season 3, we've heard that his name is actually Haddad and that he is a friend of Judas, kind of teaching him the ropes of the trade. I don't think we're going to see much of Haddad coming up in the future, although he is an interesting character. And then I wanted to mention here, since I didn't mention in my first video, about Barnaby and Shula. These two are really interesting characters. They often are used as comic relief for the show, but Barnaby is kind of this funny, kind of bigger, jolly guy, and then Shula is a blind woman who follows him around and cracks jokes all the time as well. And both of them are, well, one of them is lame. Barnaby has a staff that he walks around with all the time, and then Shula is blind. I think this is going to play into season 3 or 4, somewhere along the way, and this is going to be something that maybe they're both healed, or there's something that's going to come into play with both of them. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the Christmas special, because we have a few characters that are introduced in this future timeline that we see in the Christmas special that we didn't see anywhere else. The first that we're definitely going to see in season 3 is Lazarus. And while we're not going to see him die, I don't think in season 3, he is going to be an important character that is a friend of Jesus. We know that from scripture. So it's really cool that we get to see Lazarus in the next season. And then one last character from the Christmas special that I don't think we're going to see at all would be Luke. We saw him very briefly in the Christmas special, but I don't think that he's going to make an appearance in The Chosen until much later. And that's all for the characters in season 2. If you want to support this channel, just like many others have, you can go to our Patreon down in the description below, or go to patreon.com/thesnipelife. This really helps us out and continues our ministry here on YouTube. See you on the next one. Peace.